if God creates people that he knows are not going to be saved, why do that if they're just going to be, destroyed ultimately?
Oh yeah. So I do believe that God created a certain people to be saved, and God created a certain people to be damned in hell after he created them. I do believe that concept because...
Yikes.
First I'll deal with the host's question, which is to a point, reasonable. Basically, if God creates people that he knows some of them at least are going to be destroyed and damned to hell, then why do that? We have to let logic answer. Because like I stated in the first video for the introduction of the series, they don't accept the Bible anyways. So we have to use logic, the correct way to reason and think. Let me begin the response by asking questions in context. If parents have children, knowing that they are going to make mistakes, then why have children anyways? Why do that if there's at least a 50-50 chance of one of them becoming a criminal and ending up in prison? Or if a teacher at a school knows that not all of her students in the classroom are going to pass and become successful, then why bother teaching any students? Why bother having schools at all? Of course the atheist is going to reject these two parables and claim, well, they are not God and they don't claim to be all-knowing for sure who is going to pass and who's going to fail. So those are poor analogies. No, they are not poor analogies, they are right on point. It's called logical reasoning. Because logic deals with facts, reality, and probability. It functions with consistency. What we can logically prove by direct observation from the five senses, then we can use that same reasoning to conclude about God and his word. Fact, parents do have children and schools do have students. Reality, not all children and not all students are going to be successful. Almost half of them are going to fail and possibly become criminals. Probability, so because that is the reality, does that mean we should not have children and not have schools to teach students? No, of course not. So then the probability of, why does God create people that he knows that a lot of them are going to be damned to hell anyway, is the same conclusion. It's because of free will, which is one of the greatest gifts that God has given to mankind. God never sent one person to hell, people choose to go. Just like children and students are not sent to fail and become criminals. They choose to be and they deserve the consequence that comes upon them. So just because God knows which people are going to be saints and which ones are going to be damned as sinners, is irrelevant because that does not mean he's the cause of that. Nor does it mean there's no point of allowing people to exist anyways. There are probably many people who claim that if there's a God he would have stopped me from becoming a criminal and forced me to become a saint for my own good. But that is illogical because parents can sense patterns and from experience and knowledge know what's going to happen to their children if they take a certain negative bad route in life. Does that mean they should force their children to be obedient and lock them in their room to not give them a chance to live out their life anyways? No. Does that reflect on the parent if the child chooses a bad route? No, that is if the parents raise them correctly. Does that prove parents don't exist because they let their children make their own choices? No. The same conclusion with God. It's not God's fault when people choose the wrong route and choose to go to hell. Now I will respond to the caller's erroneous response. He simply stated that he believes God created some people to be damned and some people to be saved. He's teaching Calvinism, which is heresy. God has always given mankind free will to choose. Since man has a fallen sinful nature, we as human beings do not have the ability within ourselves to choose God or to seek after him. God has to empower us with the strength and grace to do that. The Bible nowhere teaches that God deliberately created some people to be damned and some people to be saved. There are certain times when God knows a person is ready to be dealt with about their soul's destination. And he allows them the opportunity to be empowered with that strength and grace to receive him and accept the truth. But if they refuse, that's on them. God knows how often he needs to deal with somebody before their fate is sealed because of their own choices. I don't blame the atheist for saying, yikes, because I wouldn't want to worship a God that deliberately creates people for heaven and hell and we have no choice in the matter. That's slavery and predestination and extremism. Predestination, for example, in Romans chapter 8 has to do with God's foreknowledge. Not a choosing by force. The atheist was wrong in his question reasoning. And the caller was wrong for his erroneous theology. It's pitiful that neither side had the right perspective.